Hey everyone, Jason Laird here. Today we're going to be looking at Mark chapter 14, verses 53 through 65. And in this passage of scripture, what we're going to see is the first of several trials that Jesus endured during the last hours of his life. You see, Jesus was just arrested in the garden, and all of his disciples fled the scene in fear of their lives, leaving Jesus alone with his captors and his traitor. Right? And immediately what happened is his captors, they took Jesus to the house of the high priest, to the house of Caiaphas for his first trial before what was called the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin was a group of about 71 men who governed Israel under Roman rule and reign. And it was made up of both Pharisees and Sadducees, both the two groups, the two parties that honestly did not like each other, but their hatred for Jesus was even more so that they came together in alliance for this. But here's the kicker in this first trial. Everything about it was illegal. The location of the trial was illegal. Trials were to only be held in the temple court. The timing of it was illegal. Trials were only supposed to be held during the day. And even the speed in which it occurred was illegal. There was supposed to be time between the arrest and the trial. And the religious leaders, right, the religious elite, they had so much hatred against Jesus that they were willing to do everything against the law just to get him killed, right? Just to put him to death. Mark even tells us in this passage that they looked for people to testify against him, but they couldn't find anyone. They couldn't find a good testimony against him. And so what did they do? They resorted to hiring false witnesses against him. But here's the deal. Even these people couldn't produce a good testimony against Jesus. They couldn't agree on something. And they couldn't get their story straight. They had nothing against him that held of any weight, nothing that could condemn him to death. And Caiaphas was getting enraged by this. He was beginning to lose his cool. And so he went straight to the source. He went straight to Jesus and he asked Jesus, he said, "Are you the Christ? Are you the Son of the Blessed?" And here's what that means. Are you the Messiah? Are you the one who was promised to come and to redeem and to restore and to rescue Israel? Are you the Son of God? That's what Caiaphas was asking. And check out Jesus' response in verse 62. He said this, he said, "I am." Right? That in and of itself is significant because that designation, that term, that "I am," was a designation that God used for himself with Moses and the Israelites in the Old Testament scriptures. And Jesus didn't stop there. He said, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven." You see, up until this point, Jesus remained silent about everything. He had been asked stuff. He had been asked to speak against the testimonies and everything, and he'd been completely silent. But when he was asked this question, Jesus answered. He responded and he spoke the truth. He said that he was the Messiah and that he was going to take his rightful place as king. And essentially, one day he was going to come back and judge them for what they were doing. See, at this response, Caiaphas was so outraged that he tore his garments. He ripped his clothes, right, which signified blasphemy. And they condemned Jesus to death on that one statement. See, they got what they wanted from Jesus. They got him saying something that they deemed as blasphemous. But here's the thing. Jesus was speaking nothing but the truth to these dudes. Right? They had nothing against Jesus to actually condemn him other than that they didn't like what he was telling them. They were so blinded by their own hatred of Jesus that they failed to recognize who Jesus truly was, that he is the Messiah. He is the great I am. He is the Son of God. And my hope and my prayer for you is as you look at this and talk through this passage, is that you can clearly see Jesus for who he is and how great he is. I pray that you're not blinded by any type of hatred towards anyone or anything, that you miss who Jesus truly is in the life that he alone can give you. And if you are, right, if you're missing it, what is it that you hate so much? What is it that's keeping you from seeing Jesus and who he truly is? What's keeping you from seeing his greatness in your lives and in the lives of those around you? My hope and my prayer for you is that you don't miss Jesus like these Pharisees and Sadducees did.